Aaron Rodgers watch. Week 2, where it goes, what happened, everything that developed. Well, this is where we currently stand. Nothing has changed for the Pittsburgh Steelers on the Pittsburgh Steelers side of things. They remain on the table. Offer is there. They have not pulled that offer. They have not said, screw you. They signed Mason Rudolph to say, hey, this is a good plan B if this has to be our plan B. But to be honest with you, I have had conversations that indicate Mason Rudolph is a plan B, but he's not the plan B. He is not the set in stone plan. Everybody's interpreting that he's the starter. If Aaron says no, that might not be the case. It could be the case, could turn out to be that way, but it is not solidified that he is their chosen one after Aaron Rodgers. There are still other names on the table, and those other names continue to emerge. Russell Wilson's one of them, where he went to both Cleveland and New York. Didn't sign a deal with either of them. Remains a free agent. And questions are arising about whether or not they have interest in Russ and where Russ stands. Well, this is the thing. If Russell Wilson comes back to the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is still on the table, definitely still on the table, it is going to be for literally nothing. No money. Like, you are taking $2-3 million, $4 million max to come and be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers and just say, we need somebody, dude. Screw it. I also don't know if it guarantees him a starting job or if him and Mason will have to compete for that starting job, although you'd have to imagine Russ is in pole position in that competition if it turned out to be that way. On the Rodgers side of things, Minnesota has become a name, a strong one. And according to The Athletic, who has reported it time and time and time again over the last 3 days, Rodgers wants to go to Minnesota. And Minnesota is somewhat open to Aaron Rodgers becoming their quarterback. Where is that strength? Where does everybody sit? Well, I'll say this. There was an overwhelming sense that the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to land Aaron Rodgers 4 days ago. Not that he was going to sign there 4 days ago, but that 4 days ago, there was an overwhelming sense Aaron Rodgers was coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That sense is still very strong, but there are people questioning if the Minnesota Vikings are really going to do this. They're really going to put it on the table to say Aaron Rodgers could be the guy while J.J. McCarthy takes one more year to develop. Now, Aaron Rodgers reportedly wants a 3-year, $100 million deal like Sam Darnold does, which brings up even more questions for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Minnesota Vikings. But two things have become very clear. The Pittsburgh Steelers are now in second place in Aaron Rodgers' mind, which is not good for the Steelers, which is not good at all for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if Minnesota says no, and the Steelers don't come anywhere close to that $100 million, you got to think that there's at least some consideration that the New York Jets, or the Giants, are the way to go for Aaron Rodgers. And he just says, screw it. I'd rather have the money. There's opportunity there. The Steelers aren't winning the Super Bowl, which I think that's how he views this. Like, that's where I think he sees the Minnesota Vikings as a Super Bowl team immediately, and the Steelers as a maybe, but maybe not Super Bowl team. And that, I mean, I don't think holds the leverage that it once did in the NFL. Now, I still think the Steelers are a prime destination spot for free agents, but at the same time, I think Aaron Rodgers is looking at this going, Kevin O'Connell, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, my guy Aaron Jones, TJ Hawkinson. You just loaded up that offensive line. Defense is fantastic. Why wouldn't I want to go there? Why wouldn't I want to go there to Minnesota? If they say that's the move and they sign him even to a 1-year deal, the Steelers are in a weird spot, and we'll dive into that kind of stuff here in a second. But I will say this, just conversations, the overwhelming sense that it's the Pittsburgh Steelers has calmed. They are still considered the favorites, but it was a guarantee days ago. It was a Justin Fields is gonna resign with the Steelers guarantee a few days ago. It is the New York Jets are showing interest in Justin Fields, where we currently stand with Aaron Rodgers. Is your belief in this situation, is your belief in it fading?
I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth almost. I was going to say, does it not feel like deja vu from a week ago where, listen, Fields is their option. Fields is their guy. Fields is who they want to sign. And then the New York Jets come in and they offer enough money to where Justin Fields says, you know what? That's where I want to go. And they steal the quarterback. They steal the preferred option right from under the Pittsburgh Steelers' nose. And now it's like, okay, Aaron Rodgers is the guy. They're waiting on Rodgers. He's their number one option. He's their preferred option. And then Minnesota comes in and sweeps the rug out from under the Pittsburgh Steelers. The one thing you said there that I vehemently disagree with is you said this doesn't do anything to the fact of the Pittsburgh Steelers being a not nice. What's the word you used? Whatever. Free agent destination.
Desirable.
That's the word I was looking for. Desirable free agent destination. I'm not saying it's not desirable at all. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. And as we always talk about, Mike Tomlin still carries some weight in all of these discussions. But it's not like they're getting passed up on for teams that were just shy of the Super Bowl last year. It's not like they're getting passed up on teams like, oh, it's the history of the Dallas Cowboys or their history of the Steelers. I mean, either way, no, they're getting passed up by a cluster F of a franchise in the New York Jets, especially at the quarterback position. And they're getting passed up by the Minnesota Vikings, who, they had a great season. They had the coach of the year, but they are a historically losing franchise when it matters the most. If Aaron Rodgers is looking to better his legacy, the Minnesota Vikings don't automatically give that to him. I think what we're seeing here at the most important position in the sport is that the Pittsburgh Steelers are becoming less desirable of a destination by the year. Now, I understand there's still going to be desire there. There's still things that are going in the Steelers' favor, but you can't sit here and tell me that they sit as high as they did in the past whenever they're getting passed up on at the most important position by the New York Jets and the Minnesota Vikings.
I agree. I think the Jets has to do with money more than anything else, but I agree with you. I do agree with you. It is clear. The cards have been shown. It's clear as day that the Pittsburgh Steelers are not the preferred landing spot for a quarterback that's how we ended up here. That's how there were other names out there. Trevor Lawrence made it very clear. Now I'm good, dog. I'm good. Keep me in the fourth worst team in the league, Jacksonville Jaguars, over, I don't even know who my coach is yet, over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Was calling without a GM, but it's cool. I'd rather be here than the Pittsburgh Steelers. I agree with you. I don't disagree with you. So where do they go? That's the question, is if it's not Aaron, then you have to, and Aaron's the next big name to pass him up and say, we're done. We're not coming here. Where do they go next? Jameis was tossed out there. We talked about him on Friday. Wild. Joe Flacco was brought up throughout the weekend by Mike Florio, which again, I think he's just throwing spitballs against the wall, trying to get something to stick here and look good at the end of it. I don't think Joe Flacco's a name. I think they'd put Mason Rudolph over Joe Flacco. Like Russell Wilson to me seems like a name that is still on the board. Still up there. Still, if nobody wants Russ and nobody wants the Steelers, well, if we're 40 and we're not married yet, maybe we just get married. That's what it kind of feels like. Then you could go to the NFL draft. And there is, at the same time, in the same shift of Aaron Rodgers becoming less guaranteed to go to the Steelers, a name like Jackson Dart seems to be rising up the board, and the belief that the Pittsburgh Steelers might actually take a first-round quarterback seems to be growing. And you got to question if it's going to happen. If he's going to, we've talked all offseason that the quarterback class is going to rise at the end. That is what always happens. You do not deny the quarterback position because there will always be teams out there that are desperate and need a quarterback, and it looks good. It's the most important position on the field. And while you could wait a year for a defensive tackle or a wide receiver, you cannot wait a year for a quarterback. You need to always have a quarterback. Somehow, some way, you need to be able to have confidence that at bare minimum in a test subject, it could work out in your favor. because you could come up with things and say, well, that wasn't the case or that wouldn't be the case with the Tennessee Titans if they don't take Cam Ward. It wasn't the case with the Chicago Bears when they traded back because they had Justin Fields. No, it was the case. They had Justin Fields and they have Will Levis. And they're looking at both of them saying, this isn't Mason Rudolph. This isn't Russell Wilson. There's a shot here. There's a small chance this thing actually works itself out, and we just need to give it one more year. The Steelers are, unfortunately, that desperate team that don't have anything that says or that pulls them back from that quarterback position in the NFL draft. I still think it's defensive tackle. I will make that very clear. I still think it's defensive tackle, but there is a growing belief it's going to be Jackson Dart in the first round. Look, Jackson Dart led the NCAA in passing yards last year. He had 26 touchdowns, I think, or 28 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. He throws it deep. That's what he loves to do. That's what Ole Miss did all the time, was just chuck it deep, and somebody's got to be down there. Well, it's easy to do that when it's DK Metcalf and George Pickens. I'll say that if you draft a rookie quarterback, you cannot get rid of George Pickens. That is step one. You can't do it. You have to have a competition with Mason Rudolph. That has to be step 2 in this process. And you better pray that your offensive line is good, really good, because you cannot put him back there and say, do you remember Najee Harris and what we did to him as a rookie running back? That's going to be you, but at quarterback, which is way worse. Those are your 3 that you need to happen. But to be honest, there was a time where I ruled out a quarterback in the first round. I think that time has passed. And if there is a name, it's Jackson Dart. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you worried about it being Jackson Dart?
Jackson Dart is this year's version of, and I'm not trying to compare the players. I just mean the version of Kenny Pickett, which he's not Kenny Pickett. I think he's better than Kenny Pickett was.
Definitely. I agree.
But he's this year's version of Kenny Pickett, which is, he's not a first-round quarterback, but he's probably going to go in the first round.
Yep.
Last year it was Bo Nix, and we see the 2 different spectrums that it could go on. It could go Kenny Pickett's way, where everything leading up to the final 2-minute drill, he's an awful quarterback, but in the 2-minute drill, he can get it done. True. Versus Bo Nix, who went out there and was phenomenal from start to finish for the Denver Broncos last year, got him back into the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. That's the spectrum you're playing on. That's the risk that you are taking by taking Jackson Dart in the first round. And here's the thing. Is he a first-round quarterback? In my eyes, as a personal opinion, no, he's not. Would the Steelers be, at the very least, mismanaging their assets to take him in the first round over defensive tackle, which I think is a huge need for them, over running back, which is becoming a big need for them? Yeah, I think to a certain extent it still would be. But that's where he's going to go. And if you look at the Steelers quarterback situation, it might be a Kenny Pickett situation where they've shown us in the past, if they need a quarterback, they are not afraid to reach for one in that range from 20 to 23. So, it could be deja vu the second time I get to use that phrase in this and my little edition of French for this podcast. But you know what? I look at him as a better prospect than Kenny was. He played in a more NFL-ready offense than Kenny does. That's what Lane Kiffin wants. And if the offensive line can hold up, he's got the arm and he's got the wide receiver talent to just make it work until he's a little bit more polished.
I agree. Just the one alarming factor in this, as you explain that, is that the only tangible, the only factor that is on Kenny Pickett's side right now of why it didn't work was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And who's drafting Jackson Dart?
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers. This is not Sean Payton.
I'm not confident in it. I'm not confident in it, but I'm just saying it might be the situation that we're faced with.
I agree. He's got there's a spectrum. It could happen. I think Lane Kiffin's a damn good college coach who knows how to prepare quarterbacks and really anybody else for the NFL. I do think that. I think he runs a very pro-style offense. But I also just think the risk is massive. And I also think you have to be prepared to say Jackson Dart isn't the answer in 1 year, and we have to go get another quarterback next year. I think that has to be in the realm of possibilities as well, which just puts you in such a dark place. But at the same time, What's this is a great question. What's worse to come to Cam Hayward and TJ Watt with this season and say, Cam, you got 2 years left in the NFL. Okay. TJ, you might have 5. We're going Mason Rudolph this year. Or is it worse to say, we're going to go first round quarterback at 21? We're going to go first round quarterback. What's worse to go to these guys and say, this is your Super Bowl chance, pal? You know what I mean? You got it. We're trying to win your ring, but by the time you leave in 2 years for Cam Hayward.
Funny enough, if it was any other backup level, could start a couple games quarterback, I think it would be clear and obvious that the answer is a first round quarterback.
Yeah.
But something about Mason, I don't know why, but it feels like, especially like Cam and TJ, they really got behind Mason at the end of 2023. So with it being Mason, I think that makes the conversation a little bit more gray than it is black and white if it was anybody else.
I agree. I agree, but I still don't think anybody's sitting there going, I don't think Cam's going home going, I'm feeling real good about this one. Feeling really good about this situation. We'll see what happens. Aaron Rodgers' watch continues. Until there's an answer, there is no answer. And we remain in the dark, but it'll come. When? I have no idea. But it'll come. And I gotta say, thank you, Aaron. Big props to Aaron, my man, for getting me through what was a very scary 20 hours of no tooth, saying, dude, I swear if you do this, I will be so pissed. So shout out to Aaron Rodgers.